The CNN Kamala Harris interview is officially done. So now, of course, she's going to go hide away from everyone and everything until it's time for the debates on September 10th. So there was one surprise, and that was the fact that Dana Bash actually pushed back a little bit with some questions. Okay, not as much as she should have or could have, but I guess it's better than nothing. Kamala Harris, however, basically delivered what I thought she would. Didn't really answer any questions, didn't expound on any ideas. It was basically just her saying what she's going to say and what she's been saying for the past several weeks ever since becoming the Democrat nominee. So let's go ahead and jump into basically all of the questions with the main parts of the responses, because the full interview was about a half hour. Not a long time, by the way, for your first hard-hitting interview as a presidential candidate, but we'll try to condense it down as much as we can while keeping the gist of everything intact. Here we go.
You have less time to make your case to voters than any candidate in modern American history. The voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
So notice the first thing Kamala says is people want to move forward, all right? Move forward from what? From the Biden-Harris administration and their policies, okay? That's the big takeaway there. But then, of course, she doesn't really expound much. So Dana Bash asks again, what will you do day one? Like, oh, I've got my policy plan where we're going to go ahead and try to bring down costs, which, you know, why haven't you done that already? And, of course, we're going to extend the child tax credit for 1 year only to $6,000. Why not make that permanent for all children, right? But, of course, we don't want to get into the weeds there. And then, of course, she says, we're going to bring down the cost of housing. Okay, you want to expound on that? Are you going to allow for more production? Are you going to, cut red tape in places like California that make it really hard to build new houses? What are you going to do? Okay, so that's her blanket statement. On day one, we've got to move away from Biden-Harris.
You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging, what we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years.
Yes, people would love to go back to the good old times under Donald Trump when things were cheap and affordable. But Kamala Harris says, oh, it's all his fault. It's his mismanagement. It has nothing to do with California and Michigan and other blue states staying shut down out of spite to make Donald Trump look bad, okay? Even though he was able to mostly recover his economy and most jobs lost under the whole pandemic shutdown. But Kamala Harris says, oh, it's all his fault. And by the way, we've lowered inflation to below 3%, which is an out and out lie. The rate of inflation has fallen, but inflation as a whole is still up net and going up under the Kamala Harris Biden administration. Okay, that is what we are facing. And what's her big solution? Oh, we're going to go after the grocery store. Stuff is too expensive because they're charging too much. Never mind the fact that they have like 1 to 2% profit margins, but that's too much for people like Kamala Harris.
You have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited. I was in Nevada recently, a grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, she was paying hundreds of dollars, up to thousands of dollars a month for her insulin. She's not doing that any
You
longer.
maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work.
Yes, you've been vice president for years. Why hasn't your administration implemented any of these so-called great ideas that are going to fix the economy? Oh, because we still had to recover from the last stuff. Yes, but if these ideas are going to make things better, why not implement them right away? And then I can't believe my ears. She doubles down on Bidenomics, right? It's working, okay? We created all these new jobs. Never mind the fact that jobs numbers just got revised down by 1 million. And never mind the fact that most new jobs created, out of the small number that have been, have gone to immigrants, all right, including illegal immigrants. Okay, so all these numbers are fudged, and that's why people look around and say it's not going so good. But Kamala Harris, oh, she has the plan to make things better going forward, not looking backwards.
Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What changed? You have to actually try to win the state of Pennsylvania, because guess what? They're reliant on a lot of these things that you don't like. The fracking, the oil drilling, the natural gas, right? You hate all of that. And because you spoke truth as to what you actually believe in 2019, that means you had to backtrack in 2020 as soon as you got the VP pick from Biden, okay? And now here you are in 2024 trying to hide behind that same mask of reasonableness, all right? Don't be fooled, people. She is still a leftist to the core. Don't believe what I said then, believe what I'm saying now, and don't also forget that I support the Green New Deal.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear, my values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, I cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking as vice president. So I'm very clear about where I stand.
Don't forget, you also cast the tie-breaking vote to tax tips. Okay, that's what else you did. And yes, all the Green New Deal garbage that was crammed into the other bills she helped pass is not going to reduce the cost of anything for anyone. As she just said, it's going to cost trillions of dollars over the next several years. All right, so good job on that one, Kamala Harris.
Another issue, big one, is immigration. As vice president, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border, and because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they knew they were working around the clock, and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
Excellent reminder, Dana. Don't forget, for 3.5 years, they did nothing about the border until it became such a huge problem that everyone recognized that all of a sudden, oh, we have to craft some legislation. However, that legislation sucked. A huge bill and stuff was put in there, I'm pretty sure unknowingly, to the Republican counterparts. However, what was in the bill? 5,000 people per day were allowed to come into the border before it was capped shut. That's nearly 2 million illegals per year allowed by law into this country. And then she says, oh, we could have had 1,500 more border agents if we'd have passed this bill. For what? For processing, not for enforcing any laws, but for actually helping people across, filling out the paperwork, not for stopping all of these root causes, which, by the way, she says that their investment in the infrastructure of other countries, not our own, has helped decrease those numbers. No, it's the fact that finally, after 3.5 years, you started to do something. You actually started to implement some of our actual laws on the books, and that was enough disincentive to decrease these numbers a little bit. Don't forget, on day one, they basically dismantled all of Donald Trump's executive actions, 98 taken by the Biden administration, to basically unsecure the border and open the floodgates. That is her record. That is where she stands. And she's trying to blame it on Donald Trump because of this crappy bill that was almost passed through Congress.
There's one other question about something that you said in 2019 when you first ran. There was a debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced. that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
I can't believe Dana Bash actually asked that question, right? Yes, you actually raised your hand to decriminalize crossing the border illegally. But now, all of a sudden, she's a law and order presidential candidate, right? No one's done more than her to actually secure the border. Never mind, of course, all those wonderful commercials that Donald Trump was putting out about all of the illegal immigrants she refused to prosecute, who were actually arrested and let go. She did not do anything to secure the border. This is total gaslighting on her part, right? But she knows better than anyone, right? The laws that must be enforced now that haven't been enforced for a very long time.
How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed.
Okay, Kamala, were you lying then or are you lying now? Okay, your values haven't changed. The border was wide open, but now you want a crackdown. You used to hate fracking and now you love it, right? Make up your mind. Everyone sees you're flip-flopping, and the only reason you're doing this is because communist, socialist ideals don't fly in the general elections. You're going to go back and be as radical as you want to be once you get elected, if we're unlucky enough for that to happen, flying in the total opposite direction of everything you are saying right now. Who in the world is buying this garbage?
People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
I find this whole race question hilarious, right? Because Trump just brought it up kind of like offhand. Oh, it's kind of funny that she has this flip-flopping dual identity. But Kamala Harris, what's she going to do? Oh, dismiss the question. Who cares, right? Move on. And Dana's like, okay, let's do it.
Let's talk about some foreign policy issues that would be on your plate if you become commander-in-chief. President Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. He's been doing it for months and months, along with you. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. We have to get a deal done. This war must end.
And in the meantime-
and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done.
I actually like this answer that Kamala Harris gives, even though I don't believe it, because I know that she herself is a progressive leftist. And as Dana Bash mentions, the progressive left does not want Israel to win this war. So even though Kamala Harris is doing good on her answer here, she's walking a tightrope with her leftist base, who could turn on her at the drop of a hat, because the most important thing to them at this point in time is supporting Hamas for some crazy reason.
Vice President Harris, you were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president. By contrast, the former president has none of that.
So here's where everyone in America is collectively slapping their foreheads. We all saw Joe Biden's decline in real time. Many people saw it for the first time on debate night. But here we have Kamala Harris basically defending her defense of Joe Biden. She knew what he was, and yet she's still saying that, oh, he was capable. He was the best man for the job. I was proud to serve with him. Okay, you can be proud, but to come out and say that he was anything but in a declining mental capacity is insane, all right? But Donald Trump, oh, he's the one who's actually bad for America.
And last question, Madam Vice President, the photograph that has gone viral. You were speaking, one of your grandnieces that you were just talking about was watching you accept the nomination. You didn't explicitly talk about gender or race in your speech, but it obviously means a lot to a lot of people, and that viral picture really says it. What does it mean to you?
You know, I am running because I believe that I am the best person to do this job at this moment for all Americans, regardless of race and gender. But I did see that photograph, and I was deeply touched by it. And you're right, it's the back of her head, her two little braids, and then I'm in the front of the photograph, obviously speaking. And it's very humbling. It's very humbling in many ways.
Hard-hitting last question, all right? Because remember, she was chosen as VP because of her race and gender. And as far as why she's running now, she was selected, right? No one voted for her. There was no primary. She was selected by who knows to be the candidate because she represents something to someone somewhere. So this whole interview was basically trying to not answer the question as much as possible, not giving specifics as much as possible, and flip-flopping on all of her horrible leftist ideas. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.